Okay, so we hashed out the job boards in the last episode, and this one I want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn, came out of the blue. It's a networking site. It's cool. You got to connect with all your friends, and you got to put up like a little bit about. It's not a resume. It's for sure not a resume. No, it's not a resume.
Of course not.
Because you're not looking for work. But it's a profile that looks like a resume. It smells like a resume. Breathes like a resume. Talks like a resume. But you're not looking for work, and we all get that.
But it's not a doc.
And it's not a doc, exactly. What is LinkedIn from like a candidate's perspective? Like from our perspective, I get it. It's like a bird's eye view into like the world of our marketplace, and you get to see people's profiles and what they're doing and what they're working on, and who made moves, who might be good for a role you're working on, whatever. But what's in it for a candidate? Besides a lot of calls from people like us.
Well, if we're looking at it purely from a job search perspective, like we're kind of trying to stay on the topic. I think there are tons of great uses for it. I love the questions, love all that kind of stuff. Great, just like information sharing. I think one of the things that's important to just managing, we talked about this kind of briefly last episode, is managing your career. It's there's so few people who actually keep up on what's going on in your market, even your local market, not even to say like the national software market, but even to say, in my case, like I'm amazed people don't know a single other technology company in the city of Seattle. They're like, well, Microsoft, Amazon,
Real.
Yeah, yeah, they might not even know that. Like, it's amazing. Like, they won't know what's going on. I think LinkedIn is a great way. Go in, put up a profile, and you can, you'll be amazed as you're networking your way, even just through the people that you know, how many different companies you'll find out about there. I think it's just I think it's a phenomenal tool for starting to tap into the greater technology community around you and kind of getting outside your little bubble.
It's also a way of passive candidates, kind of like, quote unquote passive candidates who don't want to actively look. It's a way of saying that, like, I could do this and I'm not actively looking, but if I happen to get a call because of it, I'm not going to turn it down. I think a lot of people legitimately do not want to get calls from recruiters. By no means. They won't post a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that unless you're a salesperson or networking is a vital part of your job, then you have no business being on LinkedIn if you don't want calls from recruiters. That's the only reason you're on there. I mean, let's be honest. Why else would an individual contributor like engineer or whoever else be on LinkedIn if he wasn't or didn't want people to see his background?
Well, I'll tell you, I think from their perspective, they want to stay connected to their friends. But there are other ways to do that without being exposed.
Right, but then they would be on Facebook or something like that.
But they're on Facebook too. They'd be on Plaxo or like some kind of like service where you just have like, a list of contacts.
Your friends don't need to see your entire background and work history and where you went to school and all that. You know what I mean? It's like, it's purely for finding jobs. If anyone had like a real like legit reason for being on there where they didn't want like hiring managers to see their background, I'd love to know what that is.
I built a LinkedIn profile before I got into professional recruiting because somebody sent me a little LinkedIn group and said, hey, stay connected with us. And so I threw it up there. And at the time I was doing nonprofit recruiting for colleges and universities, so there was no professional benefit there whatsoever. Sometimes you just get pinged by a friend and it's a cool new social networking tool, and so hey, it's the social networking age. I threw together a profile.
I mean, I think there are people who, someone will give them a call and say, hey, there's a new social networking tool called LinkedIn, and just for whatever, they'll, put it up there without really thinking it through. But I think if people are going to be like calculated and be, okay, well, I'm on LinkedIn for a reason, that reason will generally be job search.
I think that, I'm just going to play like devil's advocate. I think that's kind of wrong. I'll be completely honest with you. I think people are putting their profiles up there because, kind of like what Grant said, because when you sign up for LinkedIn, it says send all your friends an email telling them to join LinkedIn, and that's kind of like the whole like viral marketing thing.
Right.
They get an email saying join LinkedIn, and it takes 2 seconds to do it. You put in like a brief bio about yourself. You don't even have to say what you've done at each job you worked at, just saying I was this, this, and this. And like you're not assuming you're going to get calls from headhunters. I'm sure there are people there that have profiles on LinkedIn that have never gotten a call from a headhunter in their life.
But LinkedIn is a horrible way to stay connected to your friends, though. I mean, compared with the other social networking tools, I mean, there's...
But they're like business partners that you've had that you don't want to see pictures of them and like their kids and them drinking and like them partying or doing whatever they're doing. That's their personal life. This is like a business life. This is like if I had a business relationship with you, if I sold you a product, if we worked together in some capacity, then this is a way for us to stay connected.
I think that's what it was meant to be, but it's not anymore.
Yeah, but how do you connect unless you get like the upgraded like LinkedIn service and then you can send emails to people? That's it. I mean,
but if you're connected to someone, you have their contact info in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a good way to like keep up with your professional network. Just like on Facebook, you're not there. Well, some people are there to date, just like on LinkedIn. Some people are there to find jobs. But on Facebook, you keep in touch with old classmates. You see like what people are doing with that little update thing, and same on LinkedIn, but just from like a business perspective. You see, oh, my buddy just got a job at this company, or oh, my buddy's just going to MBA school. Wow, that's cool. It's like business.
A great example of using LinkedIn for professional contacts. I'm a C++ Microsoft Stack engineer. We're looking to make my small company is looking to make a major platform migration. Who do I know in my network? Who can I get introduced to? They introduced me to. Thing. And they're a great tool, but that's probably we're getting a little irrelevant.
A little off topic.
But the point of the matter is, LinkedIn is a great tool, I think, for both, regardless of whether or not you're looking and or not actively looking, or wherever you're at in your stage.
From a career management perspective, LinkedIn should definitely be part of your portfolio. I'd say, right?
Absolutely.
Throw your background on there just to stay connected, right? Stay connected. You don't have to be looking for work. Recruiters use it. We'll find you if we like you, and we'll contact you either via LinkedIn. We'll figure out a way to reach out to you. So you'll hear about opportunities, and you'll be able to passively consider them. Another good way I think to use LinkedIn is like keep active with your own connections. Keep up with who just made a job change to what company, and if you're thinking about looking, check out their company, and if it sounds interesting enough, send them a little note saying, hey, I'm not actively looking to make a job change, but your company sounds interesting to me. Maybe we could grab some lunch and talk about it. It's a very low-key, modern way to engage in a job search without saying, here's my resume, Bob, right?
Right. I completely agree. Yeah.
On LinkedIn, there are ways to conduct an active job search too. There, you'll see people like that that are like, I need a job, I just got laid off, or my company just lost funding. Someone find me a job, and they have that with their status updates, and you can tell how their profile is pretty much an exact replica of their resume.
Yeah. And that almost throws them, in my book at least, into the monster category. Maybe just a blend between a super passive candidate and then the active monster candidate. It's okay, this guy's been called by a million people right now.
LinkedIn's been transitioning so much more towards that kind of a monster.
They're an open monster right now. They will be.
I think eventually soon employers are going to ban their employers from putting their LinkedIn profiles up.
Employees?
Yeah. Well, employers, a manager of a company isn't going to want his team to put their profiles up on LinkedIn because he knows it's a risk for them to get called by a recruiter.
I think that already goes on, because I've seen companies where I'll look for people, and it's a company that probably half the people that work there are technical engineers or whatever, and there'll be no one on there. It'll be nothing but business people, sales people, and executives with the company. So I think for sure companies are starting to kind of get that and say, you know what, maybe they're not coming out and saying you can't be on LinkedIn, but for sure it's being frowned upon if you're on the technical side and don't have networking as a vital part of your position.
Okay, so we talked about job boards, we talked about LinkedIn. One thing I want to throw out there, I heard this lady talk about, she was talking about Generation Y and what the trends are in careers for the young generation, what new generation. But she said anyone who's anything, anyone who's anyone in their profession has a blog right now. Do you guys feel that if someone has a blog, they're probably better or of more value or more passionate, or what does it tell you about someone if you know that they maintain an active blog?
Absolutely nothing. What's great about blogs is that anybody can write one. That'd be like saying in the 1950s that any girl who has a diary is great for this position.
But not everyone does write one. So what does it say about someone who does? Every time?
That they're opinionated, that they have free time, that they like voicing their opinion. One of the great things is you can use the blog. You like to talk to themselves. You can use a blog to figure out if somebody's legit. Definitely, you can use that. Especially somebody who's more technical than we are. We can look into their ideas and kind of follow their thought patterns. And you can also, from our perspective, you can see how much they follow the trends and stuff. And that definitely is a great indicator of somebody who is well suited for their role. But just like Facebook can be kind of a double-edged sword, where if there's some inappropriate stuff, especially for the Generation Y and the younger groups, that can cost people jobs. I think a blog can too. A blog can definitely scare people away. You're too opinionated. There are 1,010 ways that can work. I don't see how it can be helpful. It can certainly just as easily be hurtful, but I certainly don't see it as an indicator that you are any better and or worse for your career. Anybody can blog.
Well, that's way too of a blanket statement just to say that everyone who has a blog or anyone who's anything in what they do has a blog. It doesn't make any sense. You could have any number of motivations for writing a blog. You could use blogging purely for venting. And does that make you better because you feel the need to spew out everything that bothers you? No. You could write a blog because you're vain and you want everyone to know your opinions because you're oh so smart. You know what I mean? that doesn't mean you're good at what you do. That just means, you know, I don't know. I completely disagree with that.
No, just to throw out like an extreme circumstance, but sometimes it definitely works against you. I've come across candidates on LinkedIn who says, check out my blog, and the candidate, their profile seems amazing, and I would have called them if not for the blog, and then you look at the blog, and then like an actual scenario was this chick was living in like a make-believe, this lady was living in a make-believe zombie world, where like on her blog, her and her fellow engineers were being attacked by zombies and vampires and wolfmen.
Well, that had to do with her qualifications for the job, though.
No, but then you got to consider this.
For sure she's good.
No, for sure she's
Yeah,
good, but
or
then
has multiple personalities and
Either
plays
way.
too much Dungeons and Dragons.
exactly. So
No offense if you know who we are. But, you know.
Let's continue the discussion on blogs in the next
Yeah.
episode.